Hi, I'm Mary. I'm an environmental consultant. This video is part of my Ammonia emissions from agriculture series. Ammonia is a key air pollutant that can have significant effects on both human health and the environment. Around 90% of ammonia emissions are from agriculture, and this includes during storage of slurries and manures. In some EU countries, slurry covers are now mandatory for reducing ammonia emissions. This video provides an overview of why covering slurry stores is necessary and the main types of ways farmers store slurry and manure. I have a separate video going into more detail on different types of solutions. What are organic manures? Well, organic manure is an umbrella term for all livestock manures and slurries, plus digestate and biosolids. These are generally valuable fertilisers and soil conditioners used on arable and grassland systems. Manure is livestock excrement that is stackable, generally also containing bedding which may be straw, wood shavings or wood fibre. Manure from cattle, pigs, sheep, horses, ducks and poultry is often around 25 to 35% dry matter, although poultry broiler litter tends to be higher, such as 60% dry matter. Slurry is basically wee and poo together without any bedding material. This is generally from cattle and pigs. This may also contain effluent from loafing yards, silage clamps, weeping wools and parlour washings. Slurry is generally 2 to 10% dry matter. Also, the digestate produced from anaerobic digestion is classed as an organic manure, and this can be either solid or liquid, as shown in the middle and right photos. More on how digestates can be used in some of my other videos. Finally, biosolids. This is another word for treated sewage sludge. Biosolids can be liquid or solid and are treated in a number of ways, including thermal drying and composting. These are often spread by water companies, so I'm not going to dwell on these during this video. Livestock produce manure and slurry every day, as do the majority of anaerobic digesters producing digestate every day. And there's an example shown on the photo on the right of an anaerobic digester. Organic manures are mostly used as crop fertiliser or soil conditioner, but they can generally only be spread at certain times of the year. This is especially if they contain a lot of nitrogen, which is easy for plants to absorb, also called readily available nitrogen. More about this in one of my other videos. By only using organic manures at the right time, this makes sure that the crops can take up the nutrients when they are actively growing. There is little sense in applying organic manures with a high nitrogen content during the winter when runoff is greatest and uptake by plants at a minimum. Organic manures need to be stored somewhere until the time is right to be applied to land. There are rules and guidance regarding the best time to spread organic manures for each crop, and generally not in the winter when the crops are not growing, so have no nutrient requirements. In the UK, we have the RB 209 Fertiliser Manual. In addition to storing the slurry produced, it's important to make sure there is enough storage for any rainfall, washings or other liquids that enter the store during the storage period. Also, it is important to have a greater storage volume in case the slurry or manure can't all be removed from the store before the close period starts, or if it may not be possible to start removing it from store as soon as the close period has finished. The ideal situation is to have enough storage capacity so that the organic manures can be spread onto land when the crop needs it and when the weather and soil conditions are right. In many countries there are specific rules regarding how much storage is necessary, often at least 4 months. For example, in England, for farmers in nitrate vulnerable zones or NVZs, the storage period for pigs and poultry runs from the 1st of October to the 1st of April, so 6 months storage is needed. And 5 months for cattle, sheep, goats, deer and horses, from the 1st of October to the 1st of March. This is an example considering how much slurry storage may be required for a dairy farm. The amount of dairy cow slurry produced depends on a range of factors which includes the milk yield. As an example, 53 litres of combined wee and poo per cow per day is an average based on AHDB data. As well as thinking about the cow excrement for a dairy system, the parlour washings must also be considered, as these will also enter the slurry store. So for a 200 dairy cow herd over a 4-month period, 1,872 metre cubed of slurry would be produced. Where the slurry store is not covered, the amount of rainfall expected during the 4-month period must also be taken into account. Let's move on to thinking about different methods for storing solid organic manures, including from poultry, cattle, horses, pigs, and solid digestate fibre. These can be stored in a permanent area or a temporary field heap. Permanent stores should have a base that doesn't let water through, and it has a slight slope to let any liquid run off into a collection channel and then into a tank. Sometimes permanent areas have a roof to reduce the volume of liquid running onto the manure. One way of reducing ammonia emissions is to make the manure heaps dense and A-shaped and keeping them as dry as possible. Covering solid manure heaps with a plastic sheet will further reduce ammonia emissions and also odour. So considering temporary field heaps and also any type of store, it's important to make sure they are not too close to any water sources. For example, in England for farms in nitrate vulnerable zones, a temporary field heap should be at least 10 metres from any surface water and at least 50 metres from groundwater, which could be a string well or borehole. Also, farmers must move the field heap at least once every 12 months and not return to that area for at least 2 years. There are 3 main types of liquid slurry and digestate store types used in the UK: below ground lagoons, above ground cylindrical metal tanks, and concrete stores. Slurry bags, also called ag bags, are sometimes used for smaller volumes. The first 3 are open to the elements, whereas slurry bags are self-contained with close to zero ammonia emissions. The construction of slurry storage systems is controlled by law, and planning permission is generally required, although smaller ones might be classed as permitted development. Any new, substantially enlarged or reconstructed slurry store and associated infrastructure must be built to the standards set out under the SAFO regulations in the UK. So having a pre-application discussion with your local planner and your local Environment Agency officer is generally a good approach to be sure that your proposed storage option would be allowed. So how is ammonia released from liquid slurry and digestate stores? This is a basic diagram of a slurry store that is not covered, such as an above-ground store or a lagoon. Ammonia and odorous gases are produced by microbial activity in the slurry, and these gases rise to the surface and are released into the atmosphere at varying rates, particularly on warm days and on windy days. Methane, nitrous oxide and carbon dioxide, all greenhouse gases, are also released. And the more that the gases are released, the more nitrogen is lost as ammonia. This means that the material is less effective as a fertiliser and loses value. So firstly, lagoons. There are 2 main types. Earth bank lagoons are the lowest cost slurry store to construct. They can only be created when the soil has a clay content of 20 to 30%, which is needed to create an impermeable layer of at least 1 metre thick. This 20 to 30% clay content gives suitably low permeability when combined with high strength for stable embankments which do not crack when dry. When the soil is not clay, lagoons are lined with a synthetic sheet liner, such as HDPE. This needs to be carefully laid on a well-prepared surface. Lagoons have sloping sides and generally have the largest surface area to volume ratio compared to other liquid slurry stores. Hence, large volumes of rainfall will enter, with higher spreading volumes and costs compared to other store types. For both types of lagoon, a minimum freeboard of 750mm must be maintained at all times in the UK. The freeboard is the distance between the top of the slurry and the top of the lagoon bank. Lagoons are relatively low cost and are less limited by size compared to the other options I will go through now. So the second store type is the above ground cylindrical steel tank. These are commonly constructed from galvanised steel, stainless steel or enamel coated steel panels with sealed and bolted joints. Cylindrical tanks can be relatively tall structures, perhaps 8 metres high, so usually have reduced rainfall in the store and lower spreading costs compared to lagoons. The minimum freeboard for tanks is 300mm. The photo here is a concrete above ground store. Concrete stores can be above or below ground, can be circular or have four walls. Weeping walls are often made of concrete and are used to separate liquid and solid in slurries. Cast concrete stores are made from reinforced mass-poured concrete, which forms the walls and the floor. Or sometimes the walls are precast concrete, which is supported by a steel framework. Concrete stores generally have a long life and are very robust, and tend to be more expensive than other options. The minimum freeboard for concrete stores is generally 300 millimetres. As well as liquid, slurry and digestate, concrete stores are sometimes used for semi-solid manures. So there are three main ways to reduce the ammonia emissions once the manure or slurry is being stored. Firstly, by decreasing the surface area where the emissions can take place. This can be done by either covering the store in a range of ways depending on the store type, including impermeable and permeable covers, encouraging crusting, or by increasing the depth of the store. Secondly, acidification. This is a newer method starting to be used in some countries, including Denmark, where it has been used for quite a long time. And some companies provide a slurry acidification service. The slurry can be acidified within the housing, in storage, or during application. Thirdly, minimising disturbances such as aeration. This would include stirring the slurry as little as possible. Not all methods will be suitable for all types of manure and slurry, and some methods also work for digestates. These options will be discussed as part of this video series on reducing ammonia emissions from agriculture. And here are some useful links for further information going into more detail on this topic and ammonia reduction in agriculture generally. Finally, I have some more videos in this farm ammonia reduction series. This includes my general overview of ammonia emissions from agriculture. My other videos consider how to reduce ammonia emissions in each step of the livestock production in more detail. Firstly, thinking about livestock lifestyle. This is focusing on diet and housing. Then managing slurry, manure and digestate storage, including impermeable cover types and permeable ones. And finally, application to land. Let me know what you think of this video and what topics you feel will be useful for the future. Thanks for listening today. Ammonia.